This is Ciaran Gibbons for Seconds Out. I'm delighted to be joined by the former cruiserweight champion of the world, Enzo Maccarinelli. Enzo, we're in Cardiff this weekend for the Rakhimov-Cordina fight. What's your thoughts on that contest?
Great fight. First of all, it shouldn't be Joe Cordina challenging for the title. He should be defending his title. But here we are. When he won the title, there was talks about him fighting over in Saudi Arabia against Rakhimov. Obviously never happened, and I'm glad to be back here in Cardiff because Cardiff and Wales in general need some fighters to start putting it back on the map again.
What did you think of Rakhimov's performance against Barrett?
I wasn't that impressed, but I've seen Rakhimov a lot of times before that fight. I think he underestimated Barrett. I think he was falling in a bit too much, smothering his work a bit too much. But it did show he's relentless. He keeps coming forward. He keeps working. And Barrett had to work extremely hard. And as the rounds went on, you could see Barrett fading and tiring. And I know he had the ankle problem, but it was definitely a drop in his work rate at points.
And with that in mind, what has Joe Cordina got to do to win this weekend to get his IBF title back?
He basically cannot be a sitting target. He cannot stand in front of Rakhimov. He cannot be against the ropes against Rakhimov. And he's got to keep his punches in 2s and 3s. Rakhimov's a good counter puncher, especially that left hook to the body, the left uppercut, obviously from the southpaw stance. He can't fall in, he can't fall short. So if he falls in, Rakhimov is very dangerous for that uppercut. You just got to keep offsetting Rakhimov. You can't let Rakhimov set the shots because when he punches in 2s and 3s, two and 3 phases as well. So it's a dangerous fight. I think it's a much harder fight than a Gower fight.
Joe Cordina was obviously very annoyed, to put it mildly, when he got stripped of the title. He seemed very fired up when he met Rakhimov out in the Middle East, wherever it was. How difficult is it for Joe, or how important is it for Joe to keep his cool in this fight and not let the occasion get to him?
It's very important, but I think Joe will. I think he'll keep his cool. He had every right to be pissed off and annoyed at what happened to him. He went into a fight, he won the fight, went straight for an operation, which is the best thing to do. So, he probably might not have fought for another 8 months anyway. But they decided to strip him, and I just think it puts a big precedent on fighters fighting injured.
And it's going to be a little bit of a battle of the trainers as well. 2 quality trainers in both corners. I mean, what's your thought that? Will that be a key at all, do you think?
When you have a fight like this, when you have a fight where boys are equally matched, they've got similar styles, not similar styles, they've got different styles, and you need to implement the game plan. It might be tight going in 6-8 rounds. That's when the trainer comes in. That's where the trust in the trainer comes in, and the experience and the knowledge. Obviously, Freddie Roach is one of the Hall of Famers. Tony Sims, he's been around a long time. He knows his fighter. It's just going to be an interesting battle, and I'm looking forward to it.
And on the undercard, a fight which possibly, if it was anywhere else in Wales or any other card, would be the main event, Gavin Gwynn against Craig Woodruff. What's your thoughts on that?
It's some great fights on the card, and obviously that's one of the ones that stand out. It was a terrific first fight with them. I think Woodruff last time he went to the body a little bit more, he would have slowed Gwynn down. I think he was not planting his feet enough to whip them shots in, but it's an intriguing fight. I think Gavin was a bit annoyed that it was so close, and he was so annoyed that people thought it was close, so he's going to be fired up. Woodruff's got a point to prove that he won just a fluke that night. A very interesting fight.
And another Swansea boxer on the card who might be going on the radar a little bit because it is such a good card, Sammy Lee.
Sammy Lee, product of my father. My father brought him and his brothers up, and to see him progress the way he has to win an Commonwealth gold medal, it's been amazing. He didn't look great in his first fight, but then again, he lost about 6 stone before that fight. He rushed a little bit much, he fell in a little bit much, and that's only going to come from experience. When Sammy starts holding his ground a little bit more, when he starts believing his ability and getting back to his southpaw boxing skills, these knockouts will come. He's very excited to see Sammy, good friend of mine, and very excited to see him.
And coming up this weekend, stateside, Tank Davis against Ryan Garcia. What's your thoughts on that? A fight that boxing needs? Yeah,
it is what boxing needs, but it's like Ryan Garcia, for me, he isn't one of the top boys in the world. He's not one of the top boys. He's not the Hannies, the Lomachenkos, the Shavkat Stevenson. But he is a good fighter, and he's built a great following. So But for me, I think Tank Davis stops him in 6 or 8 rounds. I think Tank is exceptional. I think Garcia is good as well. He's got a fast left hook, but when he throws that left hook, he pulls his right hand back. He doesn't bring it back to his chin. He brings it back to his chest, and Tank Davis will crucify him if he does that.
So what's Ryan going to do to try and overcome Tank? Who's the favourite in most people's eyes?
Favourite to me is Tank Davis, but for Garcia to do it, he needs to keep defensively aware at all times. He's got to keep them jabs coming, keep that left hook coming, obviously in the southpaw. Keep that left hand glued to his chin, because that southpaw right hook will be coming, and he just cannot stop and be a second target in front of Tank. He can't get greedy, and he can't fall in. It's a very interesting fight, but it's one I feel that Tank Davis is going to win.
And this past weekend, Joyce against Big Bang, a little bit of an upset, although a lot of people were expecting Zhang to do well in that fight.
A lot of people have never seen Zhang before, and that's the problem. They're all saying, Joyce is finished. I'm hearing everything, Joyce is finished. For me, I think the stone loss in weight didn't affected him badly. He looked slower than he normally is. He's never going to be a speed demon, but he looked slower than what he normally does. He looked flat-footed, he looked weak, and he just overall looked flat. And I think the weight affected him, and I also think the tactics affected him, because he looked like he'd never been in with a southpaw before. He could not do some basic things of turning side on, which limits the target. He could not put his hands tight, that his arms were open, he was square on. And Zhang, we all thought he beat Hrgovic last time out. He's an Olympic silver or Olympic bronze medalist himself. We knew he'd find a home with that left hand. I didn't know he'd find it that quick and that often. And for me, the weight was wrong, the tactics were wrong. But saying that, would it be any different? I think it'd be a better Joyce, but I'm not sure the result would have been different, because it's an interesting fight, and I hope Joyce knows what went wrong, takes a rematch straight away. He got nowhere to go, wins that fight, he's back up there, lose that fight, he's in the same position he is now.
I remember you in your fighting days, Enzo, speaking to you on camera and off camera, you were always desperate to fight the best, you always wanted the biggest fights out there, regardless who it was. So with that in mind, I presume you feel the frustration, the same as the rest of us, that guys like Fury and Joshua and Usyk can't seem to get these big fights on?
I just never cared about money, mate. As you know, I just didn't care. Maybe that's why Frank always said I was his favourite fighter. I caused him no problems, and then he'd say we're having this for a fight. I'd say yeah. So boxing is a business now more than ever, and managers and promoters and agents and people who walk down the street and decided they're going to become boxing managers and advisors are starting to advise fighters for different things, and it's just, for me, it's a pile of shit. Just get on with it. Get the fights made. But what it is, it's not just a fighter saying yes anymore. It's the managers, the TV companies. It's just ridiculous when you word it all down. It's hard for me to explain how it actually works, but it's just needs to be fighting.
Do you think that boxing is falling behind, like the UFC, for example, in terms of its standing in combat sports because these big fights are not happening?
Not really. I've heard all this before about the UFC, and I'm a big MMA fan. But UFC fighters work for Dana White. He tells them what they're having. They fight in the one TV channel. They're not allowed no sponsors, so they work for Dana White. Ultimately, he goes out, he buys the best fighters, he puts them all in one organisation, they fight, and you see the best, but it's Bellator, it's other companies, but UFC've got all the better fighters. Boxing's not going to work that way. It's too many fighters, it's too many TV channels, it's too many managers, too many promoters, and no one will have the money to come in and just group all the top fighters in the world. Be great if it did, be great for us if it did, but that's not the way, I think.
And just a question about yourself, Enzo. A lot of people maybe outside of Wales don't realise you run an amateur boxing gym. I mean, how's it going at the gym? I saw you a few weeks ago at a local show.
Yeah, no, I love it. I've done it for years. I was coaching when I was world champion. I remember beating Wayne Braithwaite on a Saturday. I was coaching Manuel Lee on a Tuesday in Tyler's Town Leisure Centre. You know, that I've always loved it. But obviously since my dad passed away, I took it over. Tobias Webb's involved now as well. We've got a terrific team. We've got some great starlets. My two boys are fighting now as well. So, you know, I just got a great gym, and I love seeing these boys progressing.
Okay, Enzo, thanks for speaking to Seconds Out, and enjoy the weekend.
Cheers, Keith.
Awesome, mate. Brilliant.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, then. Thank you, mate.